a new day arrives on the high plains of eastern Colorado. As night disappears, the forest of red safety lights atop the towers will flick off. A slight breeze will slide down the front range of the Rocky Mountains. And the dance of the swirling blades goes on. The towers, as tall as 30-story buildings, are new. But the winds of America's Great Plains have blown through these grasses for 95 million years. Nearly 2 centuries before the modern wind machines began generating power, the original windmills creaked and groaned, pulling water from the earth, turning a wilderness into the world's breadbasket. As wagon trains brought farmers and ranchers over the Missouri River and into the new frontier, they are very much a part of America's farm country.
And windmills are really iconic. In a lot of ways, they stand for where we've been.
Out here, they complete the magic of a summer sunset and share the prairie with a steady stream of trains and storms.
Yet, time has a way of erasing all that we love. And across this great expanse, you will see broken towers, rusted blades, and long-forgotten scraps of these icons of rural America. But in Syracuse, Nebraska, an engineer who helped send Apollo to the moon now spends his days on router blades, gearboxes, and wind vanes.
Most of the windmills that we fix are made in the early 20s to about the 40s.
Dave Straub, the rocket man, is now the windmill man. And in Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa, he races to farms to save the towers before they're gone.
They'll say, well, I've got a windmill here. If you want it, you better come get it because the bulldozer's ready to push it down.
He'll grind, press, and cut these metal pieces back into the machines first assembled 100 years ago.
A lot of people tell me, well, my granddad used to have one, and so I'd like to have one. The nostalgia is what sells a lot of them.
Just up the road, you can see exactly how they built the windmills in the old days.
It's a time capsule.
It's exactly as it was.
Walk through the front door of the old KREGEL windmill factory in Nebraska City, and you tumble into the 1800s.
It's a walk down memory lane. There is so much original history in here, not replicated, untouched through time.
Actually, it's exactly the way it was the day it shut down. In theory, they could still build a windmill in here.
We'd like to make a windmill. We got the parts to do it with. We don't have the knowledge.
Here, you get a hands-on lesson of the old ways.
At 30 miles per hour, the wheel would kick out of the wind.
And see how these century-old machines can still produce water.
It takes about 7 miles per hour.
In Ohio, Amish country, the windmills still operate on farms that live off the electric grid. And fathers teach sons and grandsons how to do it the old way.
Turn of the century, there were 1,500 windmill manufacturing companies.
Today, there's only one left.
Deep in the heart of Texas, you will find the last of the factories building classic old windmills. How in the world can a business going since the 1880s stay in business making these?
Probably going to be some bees in there.
We were raised with a windmill. Well, it's just there, yeah. It's kind of like you putting your shoes on. You wake up in the morning, there it is.
The windmiller's tool right there, baby.
In California, they raise towers as their great-grandfathers did.
We're up in Arbuckle, California. We're going to service this 10-foot air motor windmill.
And the view up here, well, it never gets stale.
Up on top of the towers, you get to see landscape in a different perspective. Great to see the old mills. They have a good feeling of value in maintaining these machines for the future.
All across America, they are inventing tools and methods to keep the old machines running. Because on rolling hills and in flat valleys, on top of mountains, and at the water's edge, anywhere the winds blow, they are saving history. saving the great icons of the American West. On lonely Kansas Highway 36, another giant wind turbine blade goes racing by. It feels like the special trucks and trailers are chasing the wind, racing east and west, north and south. Americans can't seem to build the new windmills fast enough as the hunt for clean energy intensifies. Of course, as a nation, we've been down this road before. In the 1840s, covered wagons rolled along the Oregon Trail, right across the high plains. You still find pieces of the trails all over. Places like Independence and St. Joseph, Missouri, Chimney Rock and Scottsbluff, Nebraska, the Guernsey ruts of eastern Wyoming. This was the freeway of the day.
Take the right-hand road, head straight west, and get to Oregon or California as fast as you could go. And you would try to pass anybody and anybody that was in your way.
And those pioneers were in a hurry, some chasing free land in Oregon, others after the gold in California. Yet many saw a different gold here on the Great Plains. With a little water and a lot of sweat, this could be a fine place to build farms. In 1865, the Civil War ended. And by 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad was bringing thousands of Americans west. Many went no further than the Great Plains.
You know, when they homesteaded the property around here, a lot of the soldiers that were in the Civil War, instead of mustering out pay, were given 160 acres of land. And so they would come out here and build a sod home, and of course they needed water if they didn't have a creek or a lake nearby.
So across the plains, Americans got their land, and along with barns and sod homes, up went the windmills. As far as the eye could see, you get a sense of what it might have been like in Hiawatha, Kansas, but we'll get back there a little later. In no time, the windmill factories went to work, feeding this appetite to capture the wind. In Nebraska City, we still get to see what one of these factories looked and sounded like.
It's important to preserve places like this because you just don't find them every day.
What makes the KREGEL factory so special is one of those quirks of life. Built by cousins George and Louis KREGEL in 1879, it was handed down to Art KREGEL, who was still working here at age 93 when he snuck home one day.
Lunchtime rolled around. He went home to eat a little bit of a midday meal, and he never made it back because he had a stroke, and 2 weeks later he ended up passing away.
As if you just walked out and everybody went to lunch and nobody came back. Well, that's just basically what happened.
Imagine the whole place untouched, just the way he left it. Letters and invoices still in the typewriters in the office. It's one of the most perfect industrial time capsules in America. You see a windmill factory just as it was in the old days.
It allowed nothing to come in and nothing to go out.
You start looking at the work tables as you walk around the museum. The hammer is just sitting right there. It's not on the wall on a peg, or it's home. Or how there's still sawdust on the floor from the wood planer.
Here you see how they pressed the blades, how they painted logos on the wind vanes, and built the towers.
When a worker pulled on a strap at the right top of the tool, he tightened a belt
the handle
that
up
raised
there?
the heavy upper die.
You are transported back to the early days.
They can't believe that this is still here, and it's still operational.
Here, you can see the unique brake pad system of the Issiaih windmill. When the wind kicks up, it just shuts down.
33, 35, maybe 40, 50 mile per hour winds. The windmill is under extreme pressure. When an Issiaih windmill was running, at 30 miles per hour, the wheel would kick out of the wind and it would lock at the gear piece here. So basically your windmill is really just taking a beating, and then the wind's dying down. The wheel would actually release. It would center itself back in the wind via the tailpiece that's not attached to this model, and it would start pumping again all by itself.
Outside, you see how an old Issiaih windmill, tied to a standard pump, pulls up water.
The one turn of the wheel at the top is the same as one water pump completed down at the bottom. It takes about 7 miles per hour to get an Eli wheel rolling. And so you can see the pump rod here, the wooden piece that connects to the water pump, is what actually does the pumping of the water pump via the wheel.
And the museum is full of these sand points, the hollow metal shaft that would be lodged at the very bottom of the well.
But essentially, this is the southernmost point below ground of where your groundwater comes in, or your well water, I would say, on a windmill. And so it actually comes through the holes and will go up the pipe.
It's all here, just the way Art left it when he left for lunch.
We've been asked, have you done an inventory? No. I have no idea how many million parts would be in here.
It is spectacular because we're the only windmill factory museum in America.
In this dusty old factory of 1 million parts, they are saving history. Saving the story of the icons of the American West.